How's it going, guys? Well, welcome back to TheBlueShifting. Welcome back to Muv-Luv Monday. And after the tear-filled episode and final of Confessions, which was freaking amazing, we're now going to the second to last story in Muv-Luv Photonflowers, and then we'll be rolling right into Melody. Oh gosh, so much Muv-Luv. It's so good. Anyway, we're doing Chicken Divers. Apparently, this is a really short one. I don't know if it's going to be like a 1 or 2 parter or something, because like every time I try and guess, I've been super wrong. But everything says it's a short story, but it's going to be following like the people who are dropped from the atmosphere. Like, oh, my heroes. I wish I were this cool. So I'm excited to see this part of the universe, especially because it's like, it's going to be just like a little snippet of just like the world and the world building that we just normally don't get to see. So there's really not much else to say other than like, let's enjoy and see how this plays out. English. Yes, please. All right, here in the orbital driver core, gosh darn it, the orbital driver core, we have a name for veterans who come back from a third drop. We call them chicken divers. I like how I'm already messing this up. So it's the death rate. So there's the 8 minutes of death, like of normal soldiers, and these guys, it's like, oh yeah, if you can survive more than 3 missions, you're like, okay, we're good. 500 kilometers, low Earth orbit. UN Space Force orbital drivers holding orbit LE521. Chicken divers. I'm all alone in the cramped TSF cockpit. Place is as quiet as the grave. Aside from the low humming of the electronics, there's not a sound to be heard. Of course, you're in space. My gloves are sodden with cold sweat. I wonder how many times I've shifted my grip on the control stick by now. 500 kilometers up in the air, flying in low Earth orbit. Stuffed into the reentry shell, I stare at the pale Earth as it passes by above me. The view fills me with a familiar sense of dread as I wait to make my third drop. My hands are trembling. It's not like anyone can see me, but I've been trying to hide by changing my grip on the control stick anyway. Yeah, I don't blame you, man. Words of self-mockery slipped out of me unconsciously. I'm a mess, a veteran in name only. At any rate, thinking someone's hot crap just because they made it to their third drop couldn't be more wrong. Aquila. Interesting name. But best case scenario, orbital drivers have a survival rate of around 20%. Fetch, man! That's horrid! For every 100 new divers, about 80 die during their first drop. 16 bite the dust during their second. Nobody makes it through the third. We call new divers rookies, but they're far from it. Every one of them is handpicked from the ranks of veteran surface pilots. Those men and women, they're the real deal. Me? I'm nothing like them. Other than a small heater to stop the cockpit frosting over, there's nothing to keep me warm. So becoming a diver is effectively a death sentence. It means like you're the best of the best, but we also need you to be able to do the missions that most people aren't going to come back from. That's terrifying. Alright. Sure, the fortified suit keeps the worst of the cold at bay, but being able to see my breath like this pisses me off, making me feel like I'm laying in a darn morgue drawer. Doesn't help that the reentry shell is rather ominously nicknamed the Flying Coffin. The reentry destroyers that carry us used to be called Flying Bricks, compared to our coffins that can only fly in one direction, though they may as well have all the grace of a swan. Excuse me. A falling coffin dropping down toward hell on earth. And beneath the heavy metal cloud, a lovely hive awaits. Reentry, cremation, crash landing, burial, or funeral pyre courtesy of the laser class. Not much point in picking my poison. Any of those options would render my corpse completely unidentifiable. You'd need a mop, not a body bag. If a mop would even work. I click my tongue and chastise myself, driving away those depressing thoughts. I've had it with these endlessly running through my mind. Reentry shell status monitor check. Communication systems normal. Life support systems all green. I'd bring a book. Orbital trajectory stable. No solar wind warnings. No contacts and debris sensors. All systems nominal. This must be like the 100th time I've run a system check. All I can do is keep my sanity. Turning on a TSS main engine without oxygen only wastes the oxidizer. The destroyer provides just enough power for the bare essentials, communications, and life support systems.
当面、俺たちの仕事はへその緒をたぐってみるのが関の山ってな。
There's really not much we can do from the time the coffin drops into the atmosphere until we hit 2,000 meters and the outer shell is discarded. The handful of sub-thrusters can only make minor corrections to the descent trajectory and adjust the center of gravity. Dang, the nickname is a perfect fit. I'm really going to be a corpse bouncing around inside a runaway coffin.
大原則化の姿勢制御。なあ、死んでもやる羽目にはなりたかねえんだが。
Should the heavy metal cloud density over the target drop below the UN Space Force's minimum acceptable level, I'll have no choice but to execute a Dutch roll once the lasers start blasting. Oh gosh, a Dutch roll in a coffin. Like, a Dutch roll is I'm not 100% familiar with it, but if I remember correctly, it's like a barrel roll, but it's intended to catch the atmosphere and help you do kind of a corkscrew spiral. But the other problem with it is it also tends to invoke a tumble if you're not able to have stabilizers like wings. So, like, his stabilizers sound like they might just be able to get the Dutch to go, but I doubt they'd be able to stabilize him from, like, the tumbling. So it would be a pretty horrific thing to have to go through, but the only chance you have. Although I do have a trick up my sleeve, an emergency release of the heat-resistant AL outer shell. It's standard operating procedure to keep it on until you reach 2,000 meters. Not that it would do much good. Anyway, using the shell as a shield like that would only buy me a few seconds of safety. I'd be fried to a crispy brown, crispy brown by the second volley, followed afterwards. Descending stark naked tends to do that to you. Oh, lasers. A cold sweat breaks out all over my body as an image from the past flashes through my mind. I slowly wipe the sweat from my brow with the back of my glove. My mouth dries up and I slip some water from the supply pack.
もう何度目だ。本気で初出撃の新任少尉様だな。
I take a deep, slow breath to fight off the vicious feedback loop of anxiety and fear.
夜を越えたか。
One of the secondary monitors bathes the cockpit in a pale blue light, reflecting my corpse-like visage on the auxiliary controls. There he is. Let's see, actually, I want to... Yeah. This is our man. God, he looks terrified. I wonder if he's like somebody we've seen somewhere else. In this light, I barely even look alive. I could swear that's the face of a dead soldier staring back at me. I wonder, what if this was the alternative mission, like, with Takaru? Like, what if these are the guys that are sent down to try and, like, help escort him through the hive? Time slowly crawls by amid the hum of electronics. The blue earth on the monitor and the silent cockpit area make up the whole of my world. Solitude. I'm positioned in the middle of my wing, but we drivers are isolated from the rest of the world until we descend into hell. Weirdly enough, reminding myself everyone else is in the same boat helps relieve the apprehension.
本当に一人になっちまったんだな。
Overhead, Eurasia slowly drifts by. Barely 30 years after Kashgar, 80% of the continent is under beta control. Might be from thousands of kilometers above, but seeing Earth like this is a privilege reserved for the destroyer's crew and divers. I'd love to be on the destroyers, like the spacecraft. Privilege, however, isn't the right word. It's a barren wasteland pockmarked with craters like the surface of the moon. Who would want to see a world like that? For the first time, I thought it was beautiful. Second time, I felt nothing but fear. And now the third time...
ああ、この眺めに価値なんてね。そんなもの、とっくになくしちまったんだ。
Oh, it's so sad. It's like such a dream of mine to be able to go into orbit and see the Earth from above like this, but I think I'd have to agree with him. Like, not that the world's, like, void of meaning, but the fact that, like, it'd be hard to look at the beauty and not, not cringe knowing at, like, what's actually happening on the surface. But despite that, even if certain death awaits, even though fear consumes us, there's no doubt that this is the land that gives us chickens, the courage and determination to volunteer for the third drop. That's right. I dropped at Lyon. I dropped at Mandalay. 96% of my comrades have died. Okay, so I don't remember. I don't know what those like drops were. Is this like post alternative, or is he referencing pre-alternative actions? I guess I'm sure I could look it up, and maybe if one of you happens to know, I'd love to hear it. But off the top of my head, I'm not sure what those operations are. And it was all for nothing. We veterans survived by turning our backs on the hive and fleeing like cowards. Chicken divers. Like, they only live for 3 because they can run away. Never again. Who's this? I haven't noticed, but my grip is tightened around the control stick. The fear is starting to subside. 5,000 meters until reentry point. Time draws near the moment the fleet commander plans to launch an all-out strike. Alright. Now, is it a go or a no-go? The bomber fleet already dumped the payload. It's a go. It has to be. We're jumping for sure. I wet my lips with a fleeting glance at the eye. With fleeting glances, I eye the dimly lit console at the side. I see my reflection. I no longer find the dead man staring back. Instead, I see a coward, a shadow of a man licking his lips. Just what am I fighting for? Atonement? Revenge? Recognition? With a grim smile, I wait for the commander's orders.
Shokun, Operation 佐渡島は順調に推移している。前艦所定通りの再突入に備えよう。第2から第4までの戦隊は
Showtime. My grim smile widens to a broad smirk. Overhead, we pass the Caribbean Sea, the homeland of the Yankee bees that send us to our deaths comes into view. The United States. We're so great here. It's a pity those arrogant buttholes get to live there, but it's one of the few places on Earth that remains pristine. A shining city on the hill we must preserve. My mind snaps into orbital driver mode. This mission's the only thing that matters. Aw, Mother Goose.
アクイラン、オールステートグリーン。全装備固定完了。ノーモア AKJ。
アクイラ2、オールステートノミナル。全装備固定完了。早くしないとちびりそうだよ、マザー。
マンマよりアクイラ2。強化装備にたっぷりちびっとけ。多い日も安心よ。
Conversation breaks the silence for the first time in hours. The casual banter eases the tension. Mother Goose 1 is our point of contact in the destroyer carrying the Aquilus. She's the only one we divers can talk to in real time. See, it would be sad, but I would love to have like what her job is. Like I probably would be a terrible TSF pilot, but being able to coordinate from like orbit, being able to like help like guide the team and prepare them for stuff like that would be something I would love to do. Being able to go into space and be able to help with the war effort at the same time, like sign me up. Oh, puns now? Screwing around like this is the only entertainment we've got left. Even Mother Goose doesn't have much to do other than checking our status. As for us, playing block puzzles with a few supply packs we can stuff into this coffin grows old faster than you'd expect. There's no need to be all business all the time. Not that all business is an accurate description of us in a certain urban legend repeated among divers, as if it were gospel, is anything to go by. AKJ, attack of the killer juice. The juice! The juice of doom. That's the story all divers worth their salt know, about a guy who supposedly died from a loss of flight control after a carton of orange juice stuck under his seat ruptured during a deceleration and caused a short. Pretty morbid stuff, but also pretty funny. Sounds ridiculous at first glance, but it's actually plausible. When we drop, we're nowhere near as graceful as the destroyer. The coffin can hit up to a maximum of 8.2 Gs during deceleration. Fetch! That would make... They probably pass out. Like, even a flight suit would probably not be able to keep you conscious then. It's a small amount, but 30 milliliters of liquid under 8 times the normal amount of pressure can have regular regrettable consequences.
再確認よ。降下後の集結予定地点はマウント大塚跡。
Otsuka.
もともと膠着可能エリアの前後マージンは5キロとないからね。ベテランらしいピンポイント効果に期待してるわ。
軽く言ってくれるな、リーナ。
あのね、アンリと、アクイラワン
Okay, so it mentioned a mountain. I'm almost curious now because I want to see if I can find out what exactly this is because I'm curious. All right, so Google was not bringing it up. Either the mountain itself is just not notable enough for that it has like a location for me to find. Maybe if I was like on like Google Japan, it would find it easier, but for some reason it wasn't bringing it up. However, it did bring up a lot of articles about a JAL flight that crashed in 1985 into Mount Otsuka. So Otsuka is an actual place, obviously. But it's interesting here because like at first I was like, oh, okay, that's really interesting. But look, if you scroll down into the story, this is on the History Channel, where they cover about this on 1985, August 12th. But it says here that what's really interesting is they had an explosion that occurred whilst they were traveling. So it blew the tail section off. He was getting no response from controls. So for the next 27 minutes, the captain, in an attempt to save everybody, attempted to gain the control of the aircraft as it descended uncontrollably in a flight condition known as a Dutch roll. And they crashed, unfortunately. So a lot of people perished. But like, isn't this interesting? A Dutch roll is like the thing that's like his ultimate fallback of like, if I could die, but a Dutch roll could be the thing that saves me from the lasers. But a crash that happened in 1985, a Dutch roll was what ended up ending them. So I don't know if that's going to be prophetic to what we're going to see here, unfortunately, but it's really interesting that there's that parallels, and I'm guessing that this story might be reflective of that. But because this is a operation that's happening in Japan itself, the only time I can think of this happening in alternative would likely be when the Yokohama base is being attacked. Perhaps this is a mitigation attempt where the UN was trying to like cut the beta off before they could actually get to the base. Because this is supposed to be about 70... Otsuka, like from what I've heard, it, like from the article I talked about there, is like Mount Otsuka is supposed to be about 70 miles away from Tokyo and Yokohama. So that's going to be my guess. I think this is like a response to the beta attempting to reconnect with the hive there. So anyway, let's get back to it.
あなたたちに無理なら後ろのひよっこは文字通りフライドチキンになるだけよ。軽くやってもらうしかないわ。
Aww. Even if the reentry shell wipes out all the enemies from the surface and the TSF lands unsuccessfully, we still need to regroup before the enemy herds return. If we don't, we'll be isolated and overrun. Any diver group unable to form at least a company-sized unit should link up with nearby divers. We've been trained to do that, obviously, but most divers want to fight besides the people they know.
Hey, hey, まずはご加盟とあらば軽くやってみせましょう。
Mm-hmm.
ふんわりカラッとフライドチキンはお任せくださいマザー。
Weird, but okay.
本気で頼んだわよ。
Oh, this is a much better picture. Goose 1, Lieutenant Rena Turvo, is this is only the third time I've worked with her, but I've seen her face countless times in simulator training. It's become a reassuring sight. Both myself, Henry Giedsen, and my buddy Lieutenant Axel Bjorker have been hurled out by Rena twice before, still alive and kicking. Our walking, talking good luck charm is the best company we could ask for. Oh boy.
第6機動航海兵団前期所定通りの再突入を開始せよ。
Right.
再突入許可確認。本艦軌道離脱噴射まで300。姿勢制御開始。アンビリカルコネクタ開放に備え、戦術機各員は全系統切り替え状況を確認せよ。
The reentry shell switches supply modes from using the destroyer's energy to its own built-in power source.
アクイラ1よりマザーグース1全系統切り替え確認再突入カーゴの操縦治療準備よし。
Yes.
接続パージ完了了解。カーゴ制御切り替え完了。アクイラ1、You have control。
アクイラ1、I have control。
Our coffins, the two armored capsules inserted in a reentry cargo shell, are the smallest combat elements able to dive using the reentry shell system. Having the cargo controls transferred over to us marks the first stage of the drop.
制御切り替え完了確認。コネクタパージ。
アクイラオン、パーチ確認。オールグリーン。
アクイラ2、コネクタパージ、オールグリーン。
The umbilical cable that was supplying us with power, oxygen, and communications has been severed. Now we're truly on our own.
本艦軌道離脱噴射まで120。
Oh wow, like look at the interference already.
頼んだわよ。アクイラス。
Mother Goose forces out a strained farewell. The cracks in her voice aren't because we've switched to wireless comms now. All the playfulness is gone, replaced with earnest distress. It's understandable. Hers is a grim and thankless task. Out of all the orbital divers and operators sent off, only 20% return. Most of the pilots she's carried are dead. Chickens might joke about what fate holds in store for us, but that's not to say we take death lightly. We fight to honor those who came before us, dropped into their graves. That's why even though the chances of surviving a third time are impossibly low, we drop again, because we intend to carry on where they left off.
答えるべきは今か。
Yeah, spin the barrel, and there's instead of like the 1 bullet in 6 chambers, there's 5 bullets in 6 chambers. The second startup sequence for the cockpit controls finishes, and the lights drive away the solitude and self-mockery.
了解。軌道離脱噴射スタンバイ。言われるまでもね、マザー。
軌道離脱噴射スタンバイ。まずビーチからハガキを送るから待ってろよ。
The third drop. Everything has been for this moment.
佐渡島だかなんだか知らねえが、今度こそは。
This will be no gentle reentry. Those times are long gone. Oh boy. Look at that moon, Mars. In the old days, when space flights to the moon bases were the national enterprise, safety during reentry was one of the primary concerns. That's no longer the case, as 99.99999% survivability is a pipe dream. Re-entry shells only have a functional reliability of 91%. Fetch, man. So 1 out of 10 doesn't even hit the ground? That's terrifying. For every 100 divers, 9 won't make it to the ground. Acceptable odds for the forces fighting Beta. Not like anybody's complaining, since the attack spearheaded by divers is much more efficient than a pure land assault. Oh boy, altitude 120 kilometers. Our beloved atmosphere starts to caress the outer shell. At last, it's game time. The hour of our descent into Gehenna is here. Whether we'll ascend into heaven again is a question for another time. There's no further communication from Mother Goose. The time for talking is way past. Plus, you can't communicate very clearly to something that's falling through the atmo. With merciless punctuality, the electric signal from the orbital control system releases the final bolt connecting us to the destroyer. Oh boy.
Reentry shell 分量確認。カゴ姿勢安定。相変わらずいい腕してるぜ、リーナ。
足りめえよ。俺たちのマザーに敬礼だ。
Goodbye. Oh, I just got the butterflies. We give a brief farewell to Mother Goose. Maybe we'll meet again if we live through the day, but that's no longer a concern. The 20% survival rate has completely disappeared from my mind.
さて、シベリア上空高度80キロ。そろそろ来るぜ。
You gotta wonder though, like they gotta calculate too, because like they got a reentry like over Russia, right? Like so, like you start coming in Russia, but that's all Beta territory. So like there's gonna be a point where you're not even actually close to the ground yet, but Beta on the continent can fire at you. So like, do they have to do heavy metal like in a trail, or what? Because what's the range of the Beta? Like, it might just be 15 miles, but 15 miles is 15 miles. That's pretty significant. It's effectively, if they can be spotted, they could die. So that's terrifying. Oh, I don't know why I stopped scrolling. Probably because I'm talking too much. Aquila 2 is wearing a smile on his face, but it's clear he's on edge. This is what a real chicken must feel moments before becoming part of the menu. Class 5, fetch. That's not good. Eurasia extends beneath us, a necropolis of towering hives, putting us in the effective range of any heavy laser class nearby. However... Okay, so I was right. Like, if they can see them, they're dead. But for some reason, we aren't being fired upon. Experience from previous operations tells us what to expect, but being so exposed still gives me the shakes. I've never understood why they don't attack us. We're well within their range, but besides the fire from our target hive, there's no lasers incoming.
毎度ながら奴らの思考は虫けら並みだな。お隣さんを助けようって気がないのは助かるが。
Maybe it's because they perceive threat or compliance. Like, a lot of the hives that aren't on the front lines are probably purely strip mining and maybe not functionally, like, combat focused. So, like, they just don't pay attention until they're under direct threat. But the hive that they're actively attacking is on guard, so they're looking for targets. That could be it.
ああ、でもな、その虫けらにやられてる人類は脳みそばかりのクソ虫以下だろ。
いいね、クソ虫。虫けら同士の殴り合いだ。
いやいや、まったくだ。奴らの頭上にたっぷりとクソを垂れてやれ。
Let's do it.
さあ、イエスさあ、ケツが裂けるほどたっぷりとな。
This ridiculous banter helps psych ourselves up for the coming battle. Taking a crap with a wingmate does wonders for your mental condition. Having a buddy around makes all the difference.
降下地点まで1000。原速度 0.8G。カーゴロケット点火準備。強化装備対 G 機能確認。
Right.
強化装備対 G 機能確認。Go for ignition.
Once we drop below 600 kilometers, the atmosphere will thicken rapidly. A destroyer would begin to slow down around here, but not our coffins. No, they fly in the face of such common sense, plummeting straight to the middle of the beta herds. This ability to bypass the enemy's defenses is what makes sending orbital divers worth it. Oh boy, here we go. Igniting the rockets negates the deceleration from atmospheric contact. The massive impact from forcing our way through rattles my skull. Okay, so this is insane. They must have some incredible technology now, because what he's effectively saying is like, so on Reentry, like just being in orbit, you're traveling at hundreds of thousands of miles an hour. That alone, as you fall into the atmosphere, causes enough friction for you to ignite. They don't wait for that though. They hit the atmosphere, and once they feel like they've got adjustments, they boost into the atmosphere. So they're traveling they're trying to break terminal velocity effectively. They're trying to fire themselves directly into the ground. This is insane. If we tried doing this with our current level of technology, it would be so disastrous. It wouldn't even be like, we wouldn't be able to survive. So again, they must have perfected drop technology to be able to even pull this off, because the strain that the capsule is under right now is like incredible. We hurl through the atmosphere, heading for the hive and an express elevator to hell. Fetch.
頼むぜ隊長。シベリア上空でこんがり上がるなんてひでえジョークだ。
The force of deceleration decreases. I now feel like my butt's floating again. Even though our backs face the earth, to better withstand the deceleration. The image projected from my retinal camera shows what's in front of us. Dropping toward the planet at terminal velocity makes all the rookie divers piss themselves. Some even faint from the sheer terror of it. Of course, the fortified suit automatically gives the newbies a shock to wake them up, and they're forced to face their fear head on again. Due to the strain deceleration puts on the heart, stimulants are prohibited. Taking sedatives, which dulls the reflexes, would be unthinkable. An orbital diver must be willing in both body and mind to finish the journey with their own strength. One can grow used to this just for the third time. Aquila 2's jokes are proof enough. However, the real danger is from what comes next. Because fear is only psychological. Yeah, physics is the real enemy now, and then the beta. At this stage, 9 of the 100 coffins will malfunction and disintegrate in midair. Good thing death happens in an instant, so there's no time to dread the Reaper coming. The rest of us, though, won't be so lucky. This velocity is intended to protect us from the hive below, but it's nothing compared to the pure horror of the 8.2 Gs of deceleration waiting for us at the end of this drop. Yeah, so they get within 2,000 meters of the ground when they probably are safe from most like lasers, and then they have to go from 8.2 Gs to 0 Gs, or at least 1, but like the deceleration is going to be a negative 8 Gs of force pushing on them from below. So combined, there's going to be a moment of effective 16 Gs of pressure, where you can imagine the top part of their body will be traveling down towards the ground at 8.2 Gs. and then a counterforce by the rockets and the bottom of the shell and the cockpit pushing up against them is going to be then applying about the equivalent amount of G's, so probably 8 G's back. So your body and the rest of the capsule is going to be under a very small moment of 16 G's, but 16 G's is 16 times the weight. So imagine like if a typical like soldier probably weighs, if they're like 5'10", I would imagine that if they're very muscular and have been working to tone their body, could be about 200 pounds, mostly muscle, sinew, and bone. 200 pounds in 16 G's is 16 times as heavy. So your body weighing on your muscles and your tendons and your bones goes from like 200 to, so it's 100, so 200 to about 36, like somewhere around 36,000 pounds, like 3,600 pounds. So you go from weighing 200 pounds and like your body experiencing the weight and pressure of 200 pounds to experiencing the pressure of 3,500 pounds. Like, that's insane. People could die from that alone. Like, their suits must be able to like super constrict them to try and keep their organs from exploding. Alright, prepare for armor capsule release. The last lock bolt connecting our cargo shell and our armored capsule fires up. By the way, I'm sure my math was off. Double check it for me if you want to. But like, the general idea is there. We begin our heavy deceleration to prepare for landing, but for us divers, that's just the start. At the same time, the shell continues ahead of us to strike the hive. That's the diver corps' way of saying hi to the beta friends. Plenty of red-hot metal boxes have been dropped, opening up countless holes in the stab and a series of gargantuan leaks of the roof. But we don't get down there ourselves, it'll all be for nothing. Oh boy, here we go. Hold. My eyeballs sink into my skull. My vision grows dim. My body's forced back into the seat. I can't move even a single finger. 3,000 pounds of force, effectively. It doesn't matter. I must keep my grip on the console stick at all costs. Hold. If you get hit by lasers, the only option left is forcing the capsule into a Dutch roll. Back when I was on standby, just thinking of doing that again makes me break out in a cold sweat. But that's the only way of shifting the center of gravity without propellant. You have to fly by the seat of your pants, riding the flames like surfing on top of a meteor. Fetch. The last thing I want, but at this point I'd have no choice. That's why I can't let myself faint. I need to stay conscious just in case. God, I don't need... The thing is, like, that force would be so intense, he might be able to yell out if it hasn't been forced out of his lungs, but he wouldn't be able to breathe in because the force, like we have we create an artificial vacuum in our chest cavity in order to pull air into our lungs, but the force of this is so intense, there's no way that cavity could overcome that pressure. I won't black out, no matter the pain. Almost there, almost to the hive. I'm going to smash it, blow a hole wide open in those monsters' heads until we paid them back for every single man, woman, and child that's died in Eurasia. Fetch, you did it! Oh, you know what? This actually might be... It's shaky, but that makes a much cooler picture. Oh, good. Good man, good man. We confirm each other's locations with a now active data link and ensure we're on track for landing at our designated positions. This part could easily go wrong. Get jumpy and overcorrect the approach vector during landing and you'll be up a creek without a paddle. Yeah, that beach is looking good. It's complete. The final alignment with our wingmen in the 10 seconds between the opening and the outer shell and our entry to the heavy metal cloud. Once we're inside the cloud, sensors and communications are, for all intents and purposes, disabled until we get out of the zone. Crap. TSFs aren't meant to fly at supersonic speed unless you're quickly decelerate in an air speed where the machine can maneuver again. The automatic evasion systems won't work.
運転までに音速1に減速。最後の10メートルでスラス取ります。いつも通りだ。落ち着けよ、アンリー。
The G-forces of this part are still going to be insane, but not 8G's insane. The drop's final minute. Having come this far, now we have to survive the final stretch, plunging into laser fire, buck naked without the shells. This is where countless divers will perish. This rocket coaster ride wreaks havoc on our bodies and minds, and if we survive, we'll need some serious time off afterwards. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh, look at that thing! Look at that thing! Metal particles cover the whole of the sky. Dim light filters through it like the sun piercing the thunderheads of a storm. And look at all those fortresses. God, what a nightmare. The preceding orbital bombardment riddled the ground with craters, making it resemble the surface of the moon. A monument looms, shining dull and black. It's a familiar sight by now, that massive towering structure. Yeah, long time no see. A hive, the symbol of beta dominance, the landmark that stands for humanity's defeat. A colossal gravestone for countless divers, one that stands in mockery of all our efforts, almost as if taunting us chickens who have fled before. Data link recovered. Battlefield intel confirmed allied markers. Yeah! Oh, hey! Oh, this is looking promising. As the familiar voices chime over the open channel, my mindset switches from one of a lone diver to that of a squadron commander. Fantastic. Yeah. We're only at the tip of the spear. Here come the artillery support. Lasers! Many have paid the price in blood to get us here. Divers, pilots. This is where we pay them back. This is where we show them our sacrifices were worth it. I gotta read quick. Gotta read quick. Yokai! God, so cool! Bitch! I'm well into my third game of Russian roulette. The fourth, I'll think about. My hands are no longer trembling. With our mission, the sole thing on our minds, we charge into the Valley of Death. That's it! Whoa! Freaking cool! Alright. You know, I think I might actually have to, like, somehow get my friend who loves, like, mech stuff. I got him to watch the beginning of Total Eclipse. I might have to somehow get him. I might buy just this packet and just tell him, like, just watch Chicken Divers. Oh, no. I'll have to, like, do a screen share stream with him. If we can get it to be stable, I'd love for him to see this. But, like, I don't want to, like, he needs to see context for it all to make sense. But, like, I think he would get it. He would love that. That was awesome. Oh, that's just pure cool. And I got to talk about space and stuff, which is really fun. Like I said, I love physics. I was studying physics, and I plan to go back to it eventually when I get the time. But yeah, like Reentry, talking about G-forces, applied G-forces and everything. Like, oh my gosh, that would make such a cool, like, short animation. Like just a 30-minute like video for like an anime. Like, that would be so cool. Oh, I wish that could be a thing, because that would be a one and done that people could just wrap their minds around. You know, they don't need to know the context. They just need to know about, like, the beta have invaded humanity, and it's like, watch them do this dive and like all that. Ooh, it'd be so cool. Fetch, man, that was awesome. Like, I'm gonna think about that all day. But yeah, so I guess that's pretty much everything though. Like, we're just gonna probably wrap it up here. It's a bit of a shorter one, even with my rambling. Like, this is shorter, but it just doesn't make sense to start something else with, like, the little time we have. So we'll have to end it here for today. But thank you guys so much for being here today. Thank you so much for joining me on the channel. As always, it's a pleasure having you here. Thank you for the Patreon supporters. Of course, like, you guys are awesome. It's wonderful. I look forward to being able to give you guys like the perks and the behind the scenes stuff and answering your questions directly. If anyone wants to support the channel, like building towards a future where I can hopefully do more videos, cover more topics, and expand myself and like what I can make this channel become. It's about building towards the dream and establishing with you the fact that, like, while I'm far from the point of being able to like make a career out of this, like, I'm not ruling out the possibility. You know, if we continue to grow and we continue to find a voice and we continue to be able to support each other, like, I could see that as a possibility. That would be so incredible. But that doesn't matter because you're here. You're supporting me now, so thank you. So for those that support me that way, thank you. For those of you who are here, thank you. We got a Discord you can check out. Lots of good places to talk about and like just conversing. There's a lot of chatter lately. And get good updates there. And ultimately make recommendations for VNs. But more importantly, just chill. I'd love to chat with you. I hope you continue sticking around. There's a lot of other good content to check out. Well, if you're too anxious to wait for the next episode next week. But regardless, thank you for being here. And until next video you're watching me, have seen me in next. I'll see you there. Oh, fetch, there's more! I had no idea there was more. I'm glad I kept recording. Okay, Avenger service from 13th layer. Oh no.
ハイブに先行突入した全部隊との交信途絶。作戦はテストプラン B へ移行。繰り返す。
Okay, okay. So this was the operation for Asumi. So they died. Dang, that sucks. Dang, that really sucks. Not a single member of the 6th Orbital Drive Corps lived through the Battle of Sadakushima. Due to the detonation of G-bomb, none of the survivors could be rescued. The orbital drops holds the record for the worst result in history. 0 returnees. The Aquilas would not dive a 4th time. Fetch. And on that note, bye! I'll see you guys in the next one. Tier.